Hello and welcome to Eastern Geeks Out, an EP Media associated podcast where I'll be discussing news and interesting topics in the gaming and entertainment world. My name's Deforest White.
My name is Jordan Lowry.
And we'll be your hosts for the duration of these episodes. Jordan, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good. A little tired, but, can't stop my day.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Been a couple weeks since our last episode, and as you might recall, we had some upcoming events the day after that last one. In particular, there was a Nintendo Direct dropped, and oh boy did we get a lot. I am not going to lie to you, Jordan. I was not anticipating breaking down in tears halfway through the live stream.
Really?
I did.
I didn't get to see it, so.
You still haven't seen it?
Mm-mm.
Interesting. Okay. Well, you did mention last time that you wanted the chance to react to one of these things live.
Yeah.
And you may actually have a chance here in a little bit, but we'll talk about that later. For right now, let's quickly go through the things talked about in the Nintendo Direct. It opened up with maybe not technically an announcement, but a reveal trailer of Pikmin 4.
Okay.
Which I'm going to be 100% honest with the viewers. I'm not a Pikmin person. I've never touched the franchise. I've got so little experience with it. My best friend is a huge fan, and he went off during the trailer. You could hear him screaming "Oh my God, it's an ice Pikmin! They have ice Pikmin now!" And I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. I can see it's Pikmin.
Right.
But I don't have a ton to say about it. Are you familiar with the series at all?
I was about to say, no, I've never really heard of Pikmin, or it's not been on my radar at all.
So Pikmin is, as I understand it, a mob resource management game that I think started out on the GameCube. Olimar from Smash Brothers?
Yeah.
This is his series of origin.
Oh, okay.
You play as these tiny little guys that are wandering around post-apocalyptic Earth, and you pick up giant artifacts like a Duracell battery or a Rob and just stuff like that, where it's the charm is that you're all tiny and you're exploring this planet from the perspective of these teensy little guys, and the resource that you're managing are the Pikmin that are these little red, green, blue, whatever. They walk around with you, so you're being followed by 50 little dudes, and you throw them at things, and they carry stuff for you, and there's combat, and it's cute, but it never really attracted my attention. Next up, though, something that attracted my attention immediately: Xenoblade Chronicles 3 DLC waves 3 and 4.
Ooh.
3, I believe, just came out. Introducing a new hero to the story and a new gem harvesting mini game, in addition to a boss rush mode, which is very, very good for me.
Okay.
But more importantly, the next wave, wave 4 of the DLC, looks like it's going to tie together the stories of Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, and 3. And the day that becomes available, I am dropping everything and may not go to class.
No, I literally skipped my class for one time. I only skipped it one time just to play Hogwarts Legacy, but that was one time.
Yeah.
That was just one.
So. I mean, sometimes a game's just that important.
Oh, yes. A game is way more important than school. Don't quote me on that.
I mean, you're being recorded. We're going to quote you on it. But yeah, no, Xenoblade, so excited. My boy Rex from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 grew up. He's got a beard. He has 3 wives. Let's go. First polyamorous relationship. Love to see it. After that, we got a revival of Samba de Amigo. You mentioned last time you wanted to see more rhythm games available for the Switch, and here we go. We got one.
Oh.
The Samba de Amigo series was, I'm pretty sure, a Dreamcast original. It's a Sega owned, and looks like this new one is going to play very similarly to the old ones, where it's got motion controls that you can use the Joy-Con with, and the expanding note system, very similar to that of the Persona 3, 4, and 5 dancing games, which I'm a big fan of personally. So it's nice to see sort of that Sega and Atlas. It makes sense that there'd be some overlap there. After that, we saw another revival. A game for the Nintendo DS is getting a re-release called Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. which I had heard people absolutely adore, but I've never had the chance to play myself.
I don't think I've ever played it myself either. Yeah, no.
It looks like a series of like mystery puzzles, but
Mhm.
the best way that I can describe them is if you ever like you're watching videos online and you see those ads come up for like the mobile game where you pull the platforms out and you try to save a king or solve a puzzle or get to the jewels or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, those games never end up actually being what they're advertising as. This game looks very similar to those. The concept is that you play as a detective, and uh, there's like someone you're trying to save and like a mystery you're trying to solve, and you do it by dying on the spot, and then your ghost manipulates like whatever on screen,
Interesting.
and you like solve puzzles through that. It looks very charming. I believe it's made by the Ace Attorney devs, but don't quote me on that. After that, though, we got the reveal trailer of Deca Police, made by Level 5, which looks to be like a very like neo-punk cyberspace police drama, which normally I'm like, Future Police is kind of overplayed, and I'm not a big fan of the police in general anyway. But it seems as though the focus of this particular game is actually you're playing as a police officer in the process of going rogue and tracking down and arresting other corrupt police officers.
Oh, I like that. Hold on.
Which
hold on.
I mean, I'm on
Hold
board
on. Hold
already.
on. I like that. Hold on.
It's pretty cool. And you like, there's two worlds. There's like the real world and then the recreation, like the Matrix style, like digital worlds that you can explore to like recreate crime scenes. And it's got that and also like RPG combat. So I'm sold. Like, I don't, it doesn't take a lot for me. And that ticked a few boxes.
Yeah.
After that, we got to see some of the upcoming DLC. First off, we have a new hub world option that's a recreation of the hub from the original Splatoon on the Wii U. It's cute. I mean, I'm gonna be 100% honest. I feel like it's just not worth the money because it doesn't add anything in terms of like tactile content. The
Right.
stores that you can go to are going to offer the same goods, and the hub world is going to operate in much the same way that the game currently has. So it really is truly just like you put a skin over it and like you get to hear a different concert or whatever.
See, I don't know how I feel about Splatoon. It's been a while since I played it, but like I could never get into it. So I was always like, okay, it's all right, but it was never my cup of tea.
I personally joined with Splatoon 2 being my first one and absolutely fell in love with it. I'm a big fan of like the competitive gameplay and having such a like unique approach to PvP combat where you're not trying to get the most kills, you're trying to cover the most ground.
Right.
And I love that. But in addition, Splatoon 2 had the Octo expansion DLC that is, and I say this with complete and total, like, I know that the thing I'm saying sounds insane. The Splatoon 2 DLC is potentially the best single player content, some of the best single player content that Nintendo has ever produced.
Really?
It is outstanding. From a world building perspective, from a gameplay perspective, from a lore perspective, getting to know like the characters and everything, it's absolutely incredible just how much they were able to pack in addition to the like once you play through it you unlock the ability to like play as Octolings online and it unlocks all this other stuff. Splatoon 3 launched with all of that. It had like this huge single player campaign from the get-go that was of like comparable quality to Octo expansion. However, this DLC is launching in two waves. There's the first one that's the new hub world, and then the second one, which I think is called like the next batch. And this one looks to be in a similar vein to the Octo expansion DLC. Specifically, it looks like we're going to get like more backstory for one of the most interesting characters in the world, the idol Marina, or as she's better known to some, my wife.
Not your wife. Don't do
My
that.
wife.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Nah.
I own one
Nah.
amiibo.
Do not do
Jordan.
that. That's,
I own one amiibo and several jars.
Wow. No. You ain't taking it. You ain't taking that.
No. I absolutely adore this character. She's beautiful. Love her. Marina's the best. Looking forward to whatever that is. It looks to be some Nier Automata, so I'm excited. After that, there was a trailer for We Love Katamari Damacy Reroll, which is following Katamari Damacy Reroll, a remake of, I think, the second game in the series, which I may be incorrect about this, but I think only ever launched in Japan. I don't know that we ever got a Western release of this game. But if we did, like, cool anyway, because it's old, so it's nice to be able to see, like, we're getting this new content, and we're having, like, the up-res versions.
Right.
From my personal perspective, you know what Katamari is, right?
No.
Okay, so Katamari is a series where you play as this little, like, green prince dude, and you've got, like, this tiny little sticky ball, and you roll it all over these, like, huge, eclectic I Spy-esque environments, and as you roll it, the ball gets bigger as more stuff sticks to it.
Oh.
And it gets to the point where you start out and you're, like, the size of, like, a pencil eraser. And then by the end of it, you're rolling around this, like, kaiju ball of, like, world-ending proportion. And then at the end of every level, you send the ball into space and it becomes a star.
Huh. That sounds cool.
It's very relaxing. It's very fun. It's one of the most Japanese games in existence. There's not really a good way to describe how bizarre it is other than just look at it. But it's very fun. I will say, from my own personal perspective, it does feel a bit derivative after a point. Like, it feels like once you've played one game in this series, you've kind of played all of them. But having more of the same is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, more levels, and that's fun.
Right.
After that, we got to see Sea of Stars, which is a pixel RPG with a 3-person real-time combat focus. And it looks to play very similarly to one of my favorite games of all time, Chrono Trigger, from the SNES. I don't know if you ever had the opportunity to play Chrono Trigger.
I haven't played it, but I've definitely seen some, like, gameplay and stuff.
Yeah. If anyone's trying to play Chrono Trigger, like, for the first time, I would recommend that you play it on a Nintendo DS or a Nintendo DS emulator if you have the opportunity, because the DS port of Chrono Trigger includes a full-on, like, Akira Toriyama, like, anime cutscenes, in addition to the like, gameplay improvements over the SNES version. It's just all around a smoother time. Highly recommend. Either way, Sea of Stars looks to be like a spiritual successor of sorts to Chrono Trigger, and that, for me personally, is very exciting. After that, we got a look at an Etrian Odyssey collection. The Etrian Odyssey series is Atlas-produced, first-person dungeon crawling series where you explore dungeons and then you, as the player, are responsible for mapping them out as you go. Now, when they initially launched, they were Nintendo DS games, so you would, like, move in first person on the top screen, and then you would draw the map with your stylus on the bottom screen.
Oh.
And I'm not 100% sure how they're going to translate that to the Switch, because it doesn't have that dual screen format. It would make sense for the Wii U almost.
I like the Wii U was really good, and, like, I feel like this game could also be really good, but for the Switch, it's, as you just said, like, it's gonna be different. It's gonna be very different.
I'm very interested to see how they handle it, especially because Etrian Odyssey has a spin-off series that I wish that I had the opportunity to play. And if it does well on the Switch, I anticipate us seeing ports of, which is the Persona Q franchise. Persona Q and Persona Q2 New Cinema Labyrinth were a DS and 3DS game, respectively, that were based on the Atlas properties of Persona and Etrian Odyssey, using Persona characters, placing them into crossover environments between 3, 4, and 5, and then using the Etrian Odyssey style gameplay for almost old school Shin Megami Tensei, walk forward, fight monster. And it just looked so cool. And Persona Q2 New Cinema Labyrinth was actually the final big AAA title to ever launch on the 3DS before that console's after death. And as such has a weird place of being important in Nintendo's history. So I would personally really like to see a Persona Q collection in much the same style that the Etrian Odyssey collection is. So it is my hope that this game does incredibly well. That being said, I don't know if I'm going to buy it because I have no attachment to this series in particular.
I don't know. I might check it out.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just sounds interesting and it sounds something new. So I might actually just buy it.
Well, hey, there's a trailer available now for the collection, so go ahead and take a look and see if it's something you're interested in. Up next, there's a Kirby game. Kirby's Return to Dreamland from the Nintendo Wii is getting a deluxe port to the Nintendo Switch in just a few days, actually. That one's launching on the 24th.
Ooh.
It's going to launch with a lot of post-game content that is new, that looks like it's adding a ton on in terms of lore. Very, very excited to see what direction that takes. Because, you already know, I'm a big Kirby fan.
Right.
So anytime I have the opportunity to, see the franchise go in crazy directions with the lore that it's already set in place, I'm super excited for. And in this one in particular, for all of the post-game content, you're actually playing as Magalore, who's, a really big, important character during the story, but notably is weaker at the end of the game than he was even at the beginning. So for you to be playing as him, the gameplay gimmick here is you play through levels in much the same way that you would a normal Kirby level, but Magalore is weak, and then as you progress, you have the opportunity to spend your resources on gaining abilities for him, which I personally think is a really cool way of showing player growth, because it allows for freedom of player expression in much the same way that a good fighting game does.
Right.
Or building a class in an RPG or a Souls-like or whatever. And it also lets you do another thing that I enjoy, which is not spend your resources on anything and play through the entire campaign as just this little weak boy for the purpose of saying that you did it. I'm the guy who ran through the entirety of Doom 2016 with pistol only, just because I could. I see you shaking your head, but it's fun. You know it'd be fun.
No,
So
it would
fun.
not. I would not even attempt to do it.
I was so upset when Doom Eternal launched and they removed the pistol from the game. That was a good pistol. It was such a good pistol. But yeah, after that, one of the biggest reveals in quite a while for Nintendo, the Nintendo Switch Online service is having Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games added to its library, which is a big deal. You can play Metroid 2, you can play Super Mario Land. You got all these cool ones. You can play the original Wario Lands. They're pretty fun. But in addition to all of the OG Game Boy games, don't get me wrong, I'll play some Tetris. But the addition of the Game Boy Advance games, that's where I'm really excited. We've seen we're getting the original WarioWare on the system, which is my favorite from the series anyway. We are getting some of the F-Zero games from the Game Boy Advance in addition to Super Circuit, like Mario Kart. But then also in some of the upcoming updates for this expansion pass, we're going to see re-release of Golden Sun,
Okay.
which is super important,
Yeah.
as well as Metroid Fusion, which is my favorite Metroid game, and I love it. And I'm so excited because like Metroid has always been like based on the Aliens franchise, and Metroid Fusion was a game like is side-scrolling Metroid that took it to the natural extreme of like, yeah, no, we're gonna make the game a horror movie, and I love it. Adding in the creepy aspect of it, like wandering around the abandoned station while there's this insane creature that's copied you, and you see like the dead face of the SAX parasite, like inside the power armor that's you at your strongest, running away from it because you don't have your abilities from the last game. It's so good.
See, I hate aspects like that, but then it's like, it's a nice touch when I'm not at that part. When I see it, I'm like, okay, that's a nice touch. But then when I'm actually in it and playing it like that, no
Listen,
thanks.
man, I don't think there's like it just gives you a feeling of tenseness, you know? Like you're playing this thing on a Game Boy Advance. This is all pixel art. Like
That's what I'm saying. I don't need all that. I really don't need all that.
it's so good though. I'm gonna make you play this game.
Yikes.
And immediately following that, actually, we got another Metroid announcement that made me incredibly happy, which was they're remastering the original Metroid Prime, the first-person shooter in the franchise, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. This is not the first time that Prime's been like had a re-release. On the Wii, there was the Metroid Prime collection or Metroid Prime trilogy, sorry, with the first 3 games. However, this is the first time that the game's been like fully remastered, up-resed. The environments and the enemies have all been built from the ground up to the point where I don't know why they're calling it a remaster. They could call it a remake and it would be accurate. Especially considering like there's multiple options for how to control the game now. If you want to keep the original GameCube controls, you can absolutely do that. But there's additional controls specialized for the Switch, or trying to match the Wii controls with the Joy-Con taking the place of the Wiimote. And man, if you've never played the Metroid Prime games, they are some of the most like beautifully polished games on the GameCube, and I cannot recommend them enough. They are some of the most like atmospheric, like absolutely hypnotizing titles available, and would highly recommend that anybody play them. After that, we had Rain Code, which was a game announced a while ago. It is an open world detective game from the team behind Spike Chunsoft's Danganronpa series, which I'm a big fan of personally.
Hold on. Okay, that sounds actually really cool. I might have to check this one out. Like,
It looks so cool. You've got like a team of detectives that you're working with, and each one of them has a different like specialized ability. Like there's somebody who can see a little bit into the past in a certain area, and there's somebody who can like detect like really faint noises. And you can like switch which character you're working with to have different clues available to you. So there's multiple routes to solve each murder, and it looks so cool.
now, do they have the same kind of art style as Danganronpa?
They do.
Oh,
which
that sounds really good though.
But in addition to having like the same art style, I will say there's one major difference, which is that in addition to the like 2D artwork that you would normally get from Danganronpa, because Danganronpa has that sort of like pop-up parade look where it's like 2D sprites and a 3D background of like character art, just like 2D towards the camera. This game does have fully modeled like 3D rendered characters.
Really?
Yeah. I think they look sort of similar to the characters from Danganronpa Ultra Despair Girls, the third-person shooter from that franchise. But